Think about something in your life right now that isn't working. A job, a relationship, a project, a degree, a subscription you never use. You already know it isn't working. You've known for months, maybe years. And yet, you're still in it. Not because you believe it will get better, because you've already put too much in to walk away. That isn't stubbornness. That isn't weakness. That's your brain running a very specific bug, and it's been running it on almost every important decision you've ever made. This is called the sunk cost fallacy. The formal definition: once you've invested money, time, or effort into something, you become more likely to keep investing, even when continuing is clearly the wrong choice. The informal version is simpler. Your brain refuses to accept that what's already spent is gone. It treats the past like it still has a vote in the present. You bought the ticket, so you have to go to the concert, even when you're tired and don't want to. You sat through 40 minutes of a bad movie, so you stay for the other 60. You spent 3 years learning a profession, so you stay in it for 30 more. Same rule, different scales. And the scale is the part you don't notice. Here's where it was first pinned down. In 1985, 2 psychologists, Arkes and Arkes Blumer at Ohio University, published a paper called The Psychology of Sunk Cost. They ran 10 experiments. One is the version most people know. Imagine you buy a ticket to a ski trip to Michigan, $100. A week later, you buy a second ticket to a better trip in Wisconsin, $50. The trips are the same weekend. Neither ticket is refundable. Which one do you go on? The rational answer is Wisconsin. It's the better trip. Both tickets are already gone. Only enjoyment is left to decide. 54% chose Michigan, the worst trip, because it cost more. In the same paper, they described an airline project. You're the president of a company, 90% done building a $10 million radar blank plane, and a competitor releases a better one. Finish or abandon. When the $9 million already spent was mentioned, about 85% chose to finish. When it wasn't, only a small fraction did. Same plane, same future, different past, opposite decision. And in 2018, a team at the University of Minnesota, Brian Swice, David Reedish, and colleagues, published a paper in Science showing the same effect in mice, rats, and humans. 3 species. Same trap. You've done this. You just didn't have a name for it. Example 1. The relationship you stayed in too long. A 2018 study by Rego, Arantes, and Magalhães, 902 participants, asked people to evaluate a hypothetical unhappy relationship. When the scenario emphasized time and money already invested, people were significantly more likely to say, stay. When the same scenario dropped the history, they were more likely to say, leave. The only thing that changed was the size of the past. That shouldn't matter. It did. Example 2. The company that can't quit. Between 2019 and 2023, Meta, the company behind Facebook, spent more than $45 billion building something called the metaverse. By their own filings, the product never found the users it promised. Engineers left. The public mood turned. And yet the spending continued, year after year, because the spending had already happened. This isn't unusual. It has a name in business research: escalation of commitment. Barry Staw, at Berkeley, documented it in 1976. Managers who personally chose a failing project put more money into it than managers who inherited one. Your brain protects the investment it made, not the investment that makes sense. Example 3. The small one. And the one you'll recognize tonight. You're halfway through a show you don't like. You consider closing the tab. Then you don't. Because you've already watched 40 minutes. Those 40 minutes are not coming back. They are just as gone if you keep watching as if you stop. The brain doesn't care. The brain counts them as an asset it's trying to protect. Before you conclude that your brain is broken, it isn't. It's doing something it was built to do. For most of human history, long-term pursuit was survival. You walked a day toward water. You tracked an animal for hours. You built a shelter over weeks. Abandoning a half-finished pursuit in those conditions usually meant losing everything you'd spent. A brain that refused to give up easily was a brain that ate. On top of that, living in a tribe meant that giving up on things, a commitment, a partnership, a promise, cost you reputation. Persistence was a signal. It told others you could be relied on. That wiring is older than language. And then there's the purely emotional layer. Neuroscience research on the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that assigns value, shows that investments get tagged as part of the self. Abandoning them feels at the level of the brain, like abandoning a piece of you. Same hardware, new environments. A $40 streaming bundle is not a half-tracked deer. Your brain hasn't noticed the difference. You can't delete this effect. You can interrupt it. 3 techniques have research showing they actually reduce sunk cost errors. Technique 1. The forward-only reframe. Ask yourself one question. If I were arriving at this situation today, with no history, would I choose this? Bornstein and Chapman, in a 1995 paper in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, showed that deliberate forward-only framing measurably reduces sunk-cost consistent decisions. It works because it forces your brain to evaluate only the future. Technique 2. Pre-committed kill criteria. Before you start a project, write down the exact condition that would make you quit. A number. A date. A result. Simonson Staw, in 1992, showed that pre-specified quit criteria dramatically reduce escalation because the decision to stop is made before your brain has anything to defend. Technique 3. The friend test. Research by Kross and Ayduk on self-distancing shows that asking, "What would I tell a friend in my exact situation?" reliably shifts the decision toward the rational choice. The advice you'd give someone else, your brain suddenly can't give to you, because your investment is tagged as self, and theirs isn't. What does not work is simply knowing about the bias. Awareness alone barely moves the needle. You need the technique, not the label. Go back to the thing you thought of at the start. Notice what your brain is doing. It isn't asking whether continuing is a good idea. It's counting what's already gone, and using that count as the reason to stay. The sunk cost fallacy doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The people it doesn't trap just ask a different question. Not what have I already put in, but what would I choose if I were starting right now? If your brain has been lying to you, we have a lot more to catch it doing. Subscribe. New video every Thursday.